much money is enough money not to tell the truth? Greetings and welcome back to those who have just joined us. I was in the midst, okay, of winding down and listening to this here episode, and I said, you know what? Let's listen to it, just this short part together, because it speaks to a lot of the things we speak to here on this channel. So without further ado, this is Ray J, and just to back it up a little bit, there was some information that came out last week. He was sending veiled, strong admonitions towards this here pastor concerning this interview, and he seemed as though he had some concern about the contents of the interview and the fact that I guess he was being too candid, and he wanted him to, edit the interview, right? And so people were like, what is he talking about? What's going on? So yesterday, I happened to hear the pastor's response, and giving his side of the story. Because as we know here, as we diligently go through here, all of the different sides of the story, so we can pick sense from nonsense. You understand? And so he was saying that, they went into certain territory and he was having a conversation very open, very candidly. And the lawyers, or whoever was with him, interceded, like, you can't speak on that. And so I guess retrospectively, uh, his guests wanted him to, make amendments, right? So I guess that was the whole conversation. So, it was interesting that he said, you know what, he wasn't going to put it out yet, but then today, boop, the interview's out. But there was one part, as I was listening to it, it reminded me of the series. If you missed it, check it out. When we were talking about destiny swap and biblical narrative. And since this is a pastor and it's talking about person's destiny, why not, right? I don't think it's necessarily directly a destiny swap with someone else, but it does have the elements. So without further ado, I'm not going to stay too long, but let's take a listen, shall we? And of course, as you know, we have to stop along the way. Greetings and welcome to those who have just joined us. I know this is not my regular time, but you don't know. We have to get it in because rest time I come. But okay, let's go.
Dang, Pastor.
So that, again, leading up, this is 12 minutes into the discussion. Just to be fair, they were talking about his early beginnings. He spoke about how he came into the quote unquote industry and that his sister was already in it, and she kind of like, as an older sister, come along, and he broached the topic of the tape that, kind of catapulted him to stardom outside of the shadow of his sister, right? So this is where we are. And again, I think it's curious, and we're going to break it down a little bit.
Yeah, so you live through it in various ways, and it's harder for you to bounce that off of people who haven't been in that light.
No, it's real.
It's also important to note that they grew up in the church, right? So he said, like, this is feels like it's coming home. It feels like you in the front seat of the church because he grew up in the church, right? So there's something, it says, train a child in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart. That's what the Bible. All right. It happened to me again. My apologies. Greetings and welcome to those who have just joined us. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. We are going into this conversation. I was just watching it, truth versus money. There was a back and forth between Ray J. It looks like he did this the pastor Jamal Bryant interview, and he was being a little bit too transparent, and he sent this like kind of like veiled, strong admonition that they should edit. Because he didn't feel comfortable in retrospect with what was coming out. This was what happening earlier this week, and my apologies, that there wasn't any sound. So and so I heard also, because it's important, much like on this channel all the time, we try to look at things from all directions. We not even try, we take a concerted effort to read different aspects of the conversations so that we can pick sense from nonsense. So when the pastor came on and said that the reason why he feels Ray J was coming at him, and it was because they may have felt like he said too much. So I just saw this video come out today. I said I'm going to do a live reaction just for the part that I thought was curious, as it relates to destiny swapping, as it relates to people who grow up in spaces like religion or in the church, and they have a foundation, right? They know that at the core that what they're doing is not right, but because of desire, money, materialism, they move towards it. I'm talking about those who have chosen that path, right? And they have that kind of divided soul that you know Marvin Gaye speaks about. But let's go ahead and continue, because I was speaking on mute for like 3 minutes. Let me double check and make sure I can be heard. The past. All right, great. I can be heard. So now let's go ahead now. Let's go ahead. Let me pull it back a little bit. And that's interesting to know. If you see him in all different capacities, he's going to go into talking about it. But you see that, they say money in this respect makes you free. But you see, the more money that they get in the way that they acquire it, is the more bound they are from speaking the truth, from saying what needs to be said, right? So I find that curious, but let's continue. Again, he over here speaking in like the parable at the well or something. I could go there, but I won't possibly be able to go there. And again, we're just looking at this from the perspective of the choices that we make, or the choices that's made for people in life, and spirituality, and just this soul experience here on this earth, right? And what really matters at the end of the day. So let's continue. And why is the pastor looking at him like, what is he talking about? That's how he's looking at him. But let's continue. Truth or money. And that's why I named this Truth or Money. I think that's what I named it. Or Truth versus Money. He's saying it's either truth. That's what caught my attention. I said, what did he just say? Truth or money. Right? Because if you speak the truth, those who were in support of you, those who claim to be for you, are going to abandon you. And therefore, but if you take the money, and then you become conflicted inside, you can't find peace, you won't be able to sleep, your conscience would. So this is curious, but let's continue. What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? The past. If you look into his face, I'm gonna just let you look into his face real quick, and I put the link for this uh, in the box. But if you look into his face and you look into his eyes, you know, which is they say is the window to the soul, it's just like, what in the world is going on? What is going on? As we know, a lot is going on, but this is also a cautionary tale for the young ones coming up as well. So wait, you're not able to, are you guys hearing it? Let me know if you're hearing it. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, so my situation is not situating right now. Nope, you weren't hearing it. Let me go ahead and pull it back again. Merciful Father. Let's try again.
Yeah.
Dang, Pastor.
Yeah. So you live through it in various ways, and it's harder for you to bounce that off of people who haven't been in that light.
No, it's real. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. Yo, so I should go deeper.
Please,
Pause.
let's go
But
scuba diving.
I don't think you want to go scuba diving, Pastor. I don't think you want to go scuba diving. You might want to leave that one alone, Pastor. Pastor said, please, let's go scuba diving. Mm-hmm.
but if I do, now I'm saying this because depending on like the situation I'm in right now, like I could go there, but I might not be able to go there. Meaning
Again, what in all of dark parables is going on here? I could go there, but if I went there, I might have to take the Uber, and then I don't know how I would get back.
I might have to say we can't go where that is because I'm at a crossroads in this situation where it's either truth or it's money.
Mm.
And so
And that's an interesting crossroads, right? Given that you grew up for the better part of your life in the limelight, you have money, you've acquired money, you've had those things, right? And now it's still a question as to whether or not, and you've also seen people choose money, and you've also seen what comes with that, right? So then the question is, how is it at this time still a choice? Marian, thank you. You could hear now that sometimes this new situation be bugging. Sometimes it's me forgetting to put, but I knew I put it into the thing, but for whatever reason, we're gonna roll with it. But let's continue to listen.
I'm choosing truth, but a lot of the team is choosing money.
Yeah.
And so we're at this like crossroad where it's like I want to choose the truth anyway. So
He just looks very conflicted and confused. He's you with people who don't want you to tell the truth because their livelihood depends on you not telling the truth, but you have to wake up every day as yourself. So sometimes people look towards, well, now I mean it's all coming down. Like, a few years ago, a few decades ago, it was much different the way people viewed celebrity, but now because of even the emergence of the internet and how everybody has become so accessible, it's no longer that far off thing anymore. But you're really seeing behind the curtain on some Wizard of Oz type stuff. But let's continue. Again, this is why it's not good to envy people, because you don't know what they're really experiencing. I was trying to show you what his face was looking like in this conversation. Just conflicted, just conflicted, just conflicted, just conflicted. But let's continue.
I was like, so I don't want to choose the money. But it's messed up because how much money?
Yeah.
No, how much is it?
How much? If you don't want to choose the money, no amount of money would make you choose it, right? So, and he goes over this, and what I don't think this was a conversation that was supposed to be on the internet. And I actually think I heard Dr. Jamal Bryant, the pastor, say that in his response video. Like, this this felt more like a therapy session, because what to me it seems like he's having this discussion, but he's talking out loud and working through the thoughts, and not everything is internet worthy, right? But for whatever reason, this internet conversation turned into a therapy session. So here we are. I guess we're gonna have to learn something from it.
You know, it's like, I don't want to choose the money, but it's 100 million. Or I don't want to choose the money, but it's 45 million plus blah blah blah. Yeah. I don't want to choose the money because it's 4 million. That ain't enough, right? So am I not choosing the money because it's not enough?
Yeah.
Or do I not choose the money no matter what it is? You get what I'm saying?
I do, but here's the reality.
What are your thoughts so far? What is he making sense? I To me it just sounds like somebody pontificating about the precarious situation that they currently find themselves in. Greetings, Lala. Welcome to the conversation. And again, like I said, he's having this conversation out loud.
More people commit suicide who are wealthy than commit suicide that are poor. More people are on behavior modification drugs who are wealthy.
What do you mean behavior modification drugs?
And sometimes it's interesting when we're in discussion what people hone in on, right? What people hone in on, that's what's on their mind most, right? It's like, what object do you gravitate towards? So when he put that out there, I mean, he didn't necessarily point us to a stat or anything, but I'm not going to nitpick on this. But you know, he gave a statistic, and then once he said behavior modification, he was like, "Nah, I'm not going to pick that one up." But once he said behavior modification drugs, that kind of rung a bell, and he leaned in on that one, right? So let's continue.
That are dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety.
But what is that? What are the drugs?
Oh, I don't know the drugs.
But you said behavior modification drugs.
He like, I don't know the drugs. I just threw out an interesting statistic there, brother. And he's over here talking about, so specifically, what drugs are you referring to? I thought this part of the conversation was curious. It's like, huh? Right? It's his response to what he was saying. He read to me, listening, because I try to actively listen. He read into his conversation or his machinations. He read into them and then figured, well, maybe he's depressed, so let me lean into, more people who have money who are depressed, they do this to themselves. And it's kind of like, well, how did you get there? Like, this is what I'm receiving from you. Instead of mirroring back to him to a certain degree, this is what I hear you saying, to kind of walk him through. But instead he put something in the conversation that he felt like, oh, I know a little bit about this, let me grab onto it. Let's listen though.
I'm not a pharmacist or a psychologist.
You have to have a list of
name. Then you.
That part is not funny. Now he trying to moonwalk out. I'm not a psychiatrist or a pharmacist. I'm a pastor. Don't be asking me them questions.
Name them.
I'm trying to understand where they at.
I'm saying the drugs that deal with depression.
So like Xanax.
Okay.
Percocet.
Okay.
What else, Pastor?
Whatever's on Future's last song. Name them.
There's a lot of.
Yeah. Name them.
Oh. Adderall.
Yeah. He Lala says it sounds defensive, because it seems like he wants him to name it, and then when he begins to name it, he's more verse. So it may have, that's why I said, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it triggered something, like you're saying, Lala, and now he's coming to the defense. Well, that's what you're saying. Like, I don't know what you heard. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it is. It's interesting, even just to observe conversations in this way. And sometimes you'd be like, how did we get here? But it's the unseen, it's the unheard, it's the internal dialogue that people are responding to. So in that case, like I said, Pastor Jamal, he heard what he heard, and then he put in what he thought would go good there. And then in his response, Ray J is hearing what he heard, and he was like, let me slide in on this point and kind of press him a little bit, because I don't know what he's getting at. Like, are you subbing me? Are you coming for me? And he's like, listen, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about drugs for real. I'm just telling you something I heard about statistics, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if Adderall, that's not a depression. That's not. Well, my friend, he's a recovering drug addict. He
Yes.
knows all of them. He's a retired Crip. He's also a successful real estate agent, so he turned his life around. Um, but yeah, no, Doc, you
The
hit,
truth is free and
but
it's
you
expensive.
you hit me right now. You stunned me.
The truth is free and expensive, and I understand that. What do you guys think on that? Is it free and expensive, or is it just expensive? It costs. I mean, they say speak the truth and speak it ever, or you're free to speak, but are you really, right? Is that like really a setup?
You stunned me. So for me, it's like, um,
That was a long, about 3-4 minute pause, like contemplation, like really measuring his words before he opens his mouth, because he realizes where he is, and he also realizes it's the age of the blogger, the internet. So he's really measuring his words. Let me take a look at his face here. He's really measuring his words. That long pause, he's really contemplating what he's going to say next. And just keep in mind, after this interview, but before it was released, he was like, "Yo, you better da 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 da." I'm like, so there must be definitely there's something going on, and mental health and mental wellness, spiritual wellness and spiritual health, as well as physical, it is important. These are things money cannot buy. These are things that money cannot buy, right? And so the world, the flash, the glitz, and the glamour has many people thinking that, money can buy it. Once you have the necessaries, what more do you need? I didn't even know this guy. I forgot his name. I was watching a show the other day, and they were saying that he was like one of the biggest Instagrammers. He's not Persian. I think he's Armenian. His name is going to come back to me. And so he was talking about how he was living this whole hedonistic lifestyle, and, his social media career, made him millionaire how many times over. And then they're like, okay, so why are you out here doing what you're doing now? And he's like, after a while, it doesn't have the same effect. After a while, it, there's nothing else to do in that realm, right? So, and earth is like, there are many things that we need to do, and if we think that the end of the rainbow, or the goal is, the pot of gold is the end goal, when you get there you're gonna be like, well, do you got anything else? And if you listen to people who have been there, it could kind of temper, us a little bit more, or the population a little bit more, in the way in which they're willing to give up what they have for what they think is more important. Lala says the truth is expensive more than money, because truth can cost. Yeah, truth can cost a lot of, but a lie can do the same thing. People. That's interesting. But it is expensive, because especially if you've built a life built on lies and deception, then the truth becomes more expensive. It's expensive on its own. But if your life and your construct, much of what he's saying, he's built a construct. He's going to go into it. So I'm not even going to spoil it. Let me just continue a little bit. Thank you for sharing that. Let's continue.
how 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 do people? Because again, when we're talking about that situation, and I say that because I'm trying to stay
Yes.
to the subject, but without digging in. Um, even though it's almost 20 years old.
Yes.
So I guess the topic he's talking about is the choices that he made early on to expose himself to the world in a very compromising position. And this is the stain that he has been unable to wash out. It's like curry, you know what I mean, on a white garment. That joint is not coming out. You know what I mean? that joker got sorrow on his clothes, sorrow and curry on a white garment. It is not coming out.
I got 2 kids now. It's a total different perception, a total different angle. I feel a total different way about it. Being now that nobody really cares, right? So when this comes out, you would probably see people say, "We don't care." Oh, blah blah blah. That's how I feel too. But in people's perception, like if 50 years from now, am I the bad guy?
No.
So you see, remember he talked about truth or money, but I've heard him speak on interviews about that particular choice and the way the thing went down and how they negotiated it and them getting monies, and it wasn't happenstance, right? And in agreeing to such a thing, you bound yourself in that way, right? So the pastor's trying to figure out, and look at his face. It's the way people's faces be looking sometimes for me. How does he get from under that 20 years later, 25 years later, 30 years later? Look at the pastor's face. He looking like, I don't know what to tell you, brother. Let me go back. For those who just joined us, welcome. We're just doing a live reaction on this video just dropped and trying to get the soul therapy, the solonomics, the spiritual aspect of the conversation. So let's continue. Y'all know I got to stop it along the way, but the pastor's face is cracking me up. But let's continue.
Why not?
Well, let me go backwards and ask you a question. See, this is not legal. There's no money connected to what I'm getting ready to ask you. One of the hardest obstacles
When he said that, he reached for the drink. Let's listen now. What's the question?
for people to jump over is not perception, but shame.
And I think it's interesting to know. I don't remember the fullness of the pastor's background, but I do think there's some type of scandal in his background too. So I think in that way, sometimes people minister to other people from connecting with whatever they're experiencing. And I do think I remember to some degree, because I try not to unless I do, right? There's some scandal in his background. So he may be speaking from that space. But let's continue.
So have you, in 20 years, gotten to a place to get past it yourself?
The only reason why it's still in the forefront of my mind
Yes.
is because I haven't been living in my truth.
Curious, and more curious. He says if he hasn't been living in his truth. I don't know why this thing keeps dropping. So he says he hasn't been living. Hold on one second. I don't know if you guys heard that. He asked him, is it still in the forefront of his mind? And he's saying the only reason it is because he hasn't been living in his truth. Let me know if you can hear it, because for some reason it's going in and out. Hold on one second.
Okay.
So not living in your truth, but living in this avatar that gives you an unlimited access to having fun,
Yeah.
not giving a F, doing what you want to do, knowing how to run businesses, and still let the character overshadow the intelligence behind the whole setup of everything people are watching, like it's accidentally happening. Being, I think 100 steps ahead of everybody by knowing things that other people don't know.
So what I'm getting from it, I see Jeremiah, welcome. What does that even mean? Not living in your truth? Let me know if that's the part you're asking. But what I'm getting from what he's saying is, when they go into this Hollywood, they have image makers, and he likened it to an avatar. It's like you can't come on to social media without an avatar, without this signing up to this account and agreeing to these terms and using this figure, using this channel by which to project yourself, right? And so people construct this avatar. We don't even have to think about Hollywood. Today, the power that used to be in the hands of Hollywood is in the hands of the people. When they go onto Instagram, when they go onto Facebook, when they go onto TikTok, they say, hey, I'm going to make this a whatever channel. I'm going to make this a construction channel, a at home mom channel, a business channel, whatever channel it is. This is the construction of that avatar, right? And the reality is, and I often tell my young ones the same thing. The reality is, when you do that, when you are a producer, right? When you make things, there's the person who produces, and then there's the consumer. The person who produces gets put in a precarious situation, because now this avatar that they're projecting, this whatever it is that they have chosen, this niche that they have chosen, is not the totality of who they are, but the way in which the minds of the people who work, for some reason, is that once you present yourself in this way and you try to move outside of that, they're like, who is this person? Right? So say for instance, if you have a cooking channel, and then all of a sudden, right, you want to take them on, you want to do something totally what they may feel is contrary, but is also part of who you are. It's like, I don't want to see this. I don't even know what this is. Right? And so to a certain degree, I can understand what he's saying, not the other stuff, in the sense of building this avatar, building this image, and it's not really the totality of who you are, but truth or money. Are you going to show who you are truly at the risk that people are not going to accept that portion of you? You understand what I'm saying? And so that is what I'm hearing from this particular conversation. And when you're on the other side of the screen, and you have a lot of YouTubers, I've watched social media come from its authentic roots, where people weren't getting paid to produce, and they were producing because they wanted to, this one, and then it got to where people are only producing because they want the money. And so as opposed to talking about subjects that need to be talked about, people lean towards talking about things that's going to get revenue, that's going to get the money. That's what he's saying, truth or money, for fear that you won't be received. I could be wrong, but that's what I get from what I'm hearing. I mean, people's truth sounds relative. Yeah, I mean, everybody's truth is relative until it's not the ultimate truth. Like, it's their experience. It's not, universal truth. It's from their perspective, right? Queenie says, it reminds her of a boss who said to me, there are levels of truth. My brows rise to this day when I reflect on that statement. I mean, to a certain degree, there is utmost truth, and then there's a perception of truth. Right? Like, so when people say that there's levels, there's utmost truth, like this is what it is, but then there's a perception of what one feels is true. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. It's just their perspective, is the perception based on where they are. Oftentimes it's said truth is 360, right? There are no gaps in the truth, right? This is why you see me go through so much on the channel, to look at all different sides, look at all different perspectives, take the time and go through the information, as opposed to, oh yeah, then this happened and that happened and this happened. And the reality is, we don't take enough time to digest it, to really even get to the crux of the matter, or the truth of the matter. So I say that to say truth is an interesting thing, but in his case, from what I heard him saying, it sounds like it's subjective from his experience. Lala, that's a good question. I think all of that is weighing on him, really. I think I ride him. I agree. I think all of that is weighing on him. Um, why not just say truth? He says his truth. I mean, if somebody, his truth, his reality is not, if whatever he wakes up to every day, that's his truth. We can be outside his gate, peeping over his window, thinking we know the truth of what's going on, but that's not the reality, right? We can know what we saw, like, oh, dude came outside in lime green pajamas and threw out that. That's like the paparazzi. That's their truth. They saw that, but do they have the full truth? No, they have a part of it. They have a portion. But for the sake of time, son, I drop. For the sake of time, we're gonna move through. Let me know if you can hear it.
That is a character that can only play out in certain phases of your life. And then when you get more mature, you start to go, well, how much longer can we deal with that character when it's not really 100% authentic, to the world's perception.
Yeah.
You know, and so
it, he's living in a construct within a construct. For instance, you have back in the days like Carlton. His name is not even Carlton. Alfonso Rivera, right, and Jaleel White. These are two examples of playing a character. These are real people who played a character that played it so well that anytime they step outside of the character, they're not received, right? And I've heard both of them speak about how that character, especially Alfonso Rivera, that character as Carlton Banks, he says ruins his life. It ruined his life because outside of that, no, he played it so well that no one would believe him. No one would accept him. Any other role that he comes in, the only thing you see is Carlton, right? I say that to say there's some people now, because he did reality. This is the Ray J guy. He did reality TV as well, which is also caricatures. So now you have the one you played in the show, and then the one that you craft when you're pretending to be your true authentic self. And in reality, you're still not being your true authentic self. You're being who you think the people want to see. And that's why even when I'm doing a topic, it's not that, oh, Muna's being difficult and she doesn't want to, I don't want to get stuck into any box, because this is about seeking truth, knowledge, and understanding, right? It's about healing and growing. It's not about just focusing on the life of one person as if this person is an idol in my mind or thoughts. So when people are like, why does she move like that? This is one of the reasons. The same thing he's talking about in that respect. But I'll continue.
I
Yeah,
said
yeah, we could definitely. Okay, I say to what is the working definition that you have for truth? I agree that people have their perspective of the truth. I don't really object to his what he said in that way. I would listen it to again, but his truth again. The quest that one has to go on to really understand truth, it's not a simple matter. As we see, you could be at a place and everybody was there and still not know the truth. One of the mysteries, who did it? Was it the butler? Everybody was in the room, but you have to diligently inquire, you have to investigate, you have to do all of these things to get to the truth, right? So that's why I say it's not it's not as cut and dry, but we're gonna keep listening. Jeremiah says people who act how people want them to act are people pleasers. Well, that, and society to a certain degree trains people to act in this way. If you want to do this, if you want to do that, if you want to, what I mean? Some of them think people, they become this, not to say that they out the box people pleasers, but they want to eat. they want to live somewhere. They want to do, so society kind of molds people in a certain degree to some more than others to say, listen, if you don't comply, then X, Y, and Z. So I think it's a little more complex, but we're gonna listen for sake of time. I'm gonna listen to a little bit more, and then I'm gonna wind down.
a lot, but I didn't really say nothing right there.
No, I got it.
But if you want to live the truth and you're not, it doesn't feel good.
It near out your inside. What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? What does it profit a man? That's a question, and it's rhetorical. So he says it doesn't feel good. It goes back to what does it profit a man? So basically, they're telling you it's smoke and mirrors. When you get there, it's all you think it makes you better. Once you have a house, how many houses do you need? Once you have cars, how many cars do you need? How many clothes do you need? Do you have healthy relationships? Do you have a connection with the creator? Do you have peace of mind? Do you have stability? Are you dependent on chemicals and substances and vices to move you through the day? As he says, because that dissonance, we're made to be in connection with the divine, with the creator, so that we can find that peace, that balance, that equilibrium. And look, why is the pastor looking at him like this? Let me hear what he about to say after he already done said this to him. Let me hear what he about to say.
So for me, like money and all of these other things, like I've made too much money and I blew all the money. I know how to spend a lot of money today. I know how to save it. It doesn't do anything. When I take my daughter to school or my son to school, and this is hypothetical, but if my daughter likes a school that's 5 minutes away from me,
I don't even want to skip over that part of him saying he got all that, he did all that, and it's not, it's the void. The soul cannot be satisfied with material possessions because it's the immaterial part of me. And this is my thoughts. Y'all let me know yours. So thinking that these things are going to satisfy that void, what it does is create a bigger void. I'm not saying that resources are not necessary to navigate this earthly realm. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying when people put it above everything, then it creates a deeper void in the soul that nothing material can fill. And that's what I think the pastor was leaning towards, to say that richer people, and he would have to get me the stat on that. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying for future reference that they're more inclined to do these things. And really it doesn't make sense, because according to the people who don't have, you got everything you need. Why are you not happy? Right?
and she wants to go to that school. So you have to get an assessment or something, right? You have to go to the school and they have to meet with the kids and I guess do their due diligence on the family, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll accept you into the school. There's a school that my daughter didn't get accepted to. And there's only one reason why.
The papa. The one reason why they say, no, sir, we not make that little picnic come at this school. You see where our father did do in a 1972?
And it leads back to where we are again with the truth, the lie, and this clash between false enemies. And when my family gets affected by it, it turns me into something else. And I don't want.
So he's saying it's hypothetical. Um, okay. And it says the sin, this is will be revisited to the third and fourth generation. So even though this little girl is not guilty, what the father did was revisiting. That's universal law. Now that is utmost truth and universal law. And he's coming to the realization that, wow, his behavior did adversely affect the because sometimes people don't really see it when it's the money, but now when it's affecting the one you love, right? Now all of a sudden it's like you said, he's becoming a different person. Let me see. I'm gonna try to see where I can stop this at, because I'm gonna have to wind down and catch out on the other side of the conversation. But let me just play a few more minutes.
I want my family to continue to be affected by this story that never stops, right? I mean, I want it to stop.
Right.
You know, I mean, of course, the other side wants it to stop because they don't even talk about it, right? I don't like to talk about it.
Ready to
Well, we gonna stop talking about it right there. I'm gonna leave it right there. He said a lot. I put the link to, if you wanted to watch the whole thing, in the box. Again, this is a cautionary tale. They lie. They say, "Oh, you only live once, YOLO." Right? And then they got people out here doing the most of foolishness, the most of armsos, the most of craziness, right? And you've even seen this where some people said today them feel like this and tomorrow them feel like that. Them say, what? Come, take these drugs, take these hormones, get some beard, get a deeper voice. You know what I mean? And then what happens? They go down the line and be like, oh no, it was a feeling. I want to change again. And they're like, oops, it's too late. They jacked you up. Like, this is the kind of world we're living in right now. So I continue to pray that the Most High continue to guide and protect us each and every day. A sound mind is very important. Protect the mind of your children. You know what I mean? Be there in the way that we can, Most High willing, and let the young one them know it does matter. What we do when you young, it does have an effect as you grow and mature. I just had to wind down on that one. But with that said, I pray everybody has a blessed evening. I'm going to wind down now, and we will talk again soon. All right.